lovely humans, and welcome to the space on the internet.
So we put out a Google Form survey to our YouTube and Instagram fan base, and we just wanted to ask aromantic and arospec people about their personal experiences as being aromantic and arospec. Also, apologies for all the nature noises. Some of you said that you liked it in the last video I did outside, so hopefully you still like it.
So I think it kind of goes without saying why this subject is important to us, but in case you don't already know, both of us are aromantic, so it's relevant to our lives and lived experiences.
If you're not super familiar with the aromantic spectrum, then we have a lot of videos on our channel that can familiarize you better. I'll link them right here. So we got a staggering 189 responses on our survey, and we've selected a few of the questions that we want to highlight in this video. We'll be sharing kind of our experiences or like our answers, just like spark discussion, and then we want to amplify your experiences.
So the first question on the survey was, how do you define aromantic identity for yourself? So first, how do you define aromanticism / the aromantic identity for yourself, Elle?
Aromantic identity for myself is like partially personal and then like partially political. So a large portion of my aromantic identity is really just the rejection of amatonormativity and how I view that as an inherent part of how I exist on Earth, which sounds very like large and almost existential, but I don't know, it's just something that I've identified with very closely. And then there's also just the aspect of like not really wanting a romantic relationship and feeling kind of not like misrepresented, but like almost misunderstood by the like imposition of romantic ideas about me from other people. I don't like the idea of thinking of myself or of other people thinking of me as like a romantic being. What about you?
I relate a lot to kind of the second part, where it applies to myself and the way I interact with the world a lot. It kind of feels like a form of self-acceptance and a self-care sort of thing. It's a big part of understanding myself, I guess, because of that. Like, there's so many points of contrast, or the way people expect you to be, and kind of having to navigate that, especially through times like high school, when everyone's expecting like romantic behaviors and all the media is so romantic, and being able to come to the understanding that that's not really how I view myself, and I don't view myself really as a piece of that bubble. It made it easier to see where I fit in the biosphere.
Now we want to read out some of kind of randomly selected, because we didn't actually pre-screen these very intensely
This
at all.
is sort of what shows up on our form. There's like no particular order.
So a bulk of you took the very literal route in explaining yourself by saying that you define aromanticism and aromantic identity for yourself as a lack of romantic attraction towards anyone.
Ooh, we took a very philosophical approach.
I don't know, it's just different. In a similar vein, not feeling a romantic attraction towards anyone, feeling little to no romantic attraction, no romantic attraction, that kind of thing. A lot of you said that, which is literally the definition of aromantic, so like A+ for you.
Yeah. So this respondent said, I don't have any feelings towards people that go farther than a strong friendship or maybe a QPR, I don't know yet, with a lot of traditionally romantic things and feelings just not sounding good. It's hard for me to describe the absence of something I have very little understanding of. Yeah, I relate. I feel like I relate to that.
And this person says, a lack of romantic attraction as well as an understanding of what romantic attraction entails. My love takes its forms in other ways, most of which cannot be boxed into quote-unquote romance.
As someone who experiences tertiary attraction, alterous attraction, the discomfort I feel at the idea of the person I'm attracted to, thinking that I have romantic feeling for them, defines my aromanticism. I'd still like to be in a relationship one day, but for me to feel comfortable with that, I would need to know that the other person knows the attraction I experience for them is not romantic.
That's kind of like us.
Yeah, I was literally just about to say that. I feel like that's kind of how we went, where everybody expected that we were like all Romo, which there isn't anything wrong with that, but I think we were both uncomfortable with it, but we thought the other person wasn't.
Someone says, while I get romantic attraction in theory, I don't remember actually experiencing it. without other people convincing me it must be romantic. It also ties heavily into my autism that makes it difficult to understand amatonormative standards.
So this respondent said, rarely experiencing romantic attraction / only when certain criteria are met. So that seems like, I mean, as a demi person, that sounds like demi-romantic. I mean, not to like diagnose these anonymous respondents, but like, I think
If we had to guess, that's probably...
that feels like a pretty solid definition of like something that like a demi-romantic person might feel, where like they don't relate to romantic attraction on like a more routine basis.
I define aromanticism as the lack or absence of romantic attraction. My identity specifically fluctuates throughout the Aros spec, much like genderfluid. That's cool beans. I feel like, I mean, I don't relate to that in an aromantic way, but I feel like my sexual identity kind of does that a little bit.
Fluid is fun. Aro juice.
And then, obviously, I'm also genderfluid. So. Thank you for everybody's responses. I think we're going to move on to the next question.
So the question number 2 was, how did you know / find out that you were aromantic? How did you know / find out that you were aromantic?
So I'll read what I did, what I wrote in this question box, which was, through intensive research and self-examination after being shipped with a friend of mine and feeling put off by it. This is the friend of mine.
Yeah, this was funny because I didn't know this was like a test response that Elle wrote, and I was like, whoa, that's relatable.
How did you know or find out that you were aromantic?
Through your self-examination. Elle was the researcher in this. Like, I am very blessed to have been educated on a lot of these topics originally by Elle, because I had identified the feelings, and I could understand that there was like some barrier between myself and the way that other people were experiencing like the romantic world, and it just like never quite clicked for me, and I didn't really find the words for that until we sort of met. And Elle's a researcher in like every way, shape, and form. Through that, I was also the like sponge that got to absorb a lot of your research findings. So now we are going to read some of your responses. Alright, so this respondent said, around my senior year of high school, it occurred to me that, unlike my friends, I hadn't had any crushes or romantic relationships with anyone, nor had I ever actively sought them out.
This person says, scrolling through the ace tag on Tumblr and discovering the oriented era ace label. I'd like to think that we were like people's second to Tumblr resource, at least at some point in time. That's the vibe I get, that some of you found some seeds of ideas on Tumblr and then found us. Let me know if that's you. I just think that's the kind of feedback that we've gotten in the past, so.
Is Tumblr just like aro-ace?
Oh, another
David?
Tumblr and another Tumblr. Wow,
I feel like I missed out on like the Tumblr aro-ace
know.
culture. I wasn't like a cool Tumblr kid like the rest of you all. So this respondent says, I was always very confused about why I wasn't feeling / acting the same way as my peers when it came to crushes. I would make up fake crushes in elementary school because it made me fit in more. Later, I forced myself to ask someone who I knew liked me out because I thought it would fix me, and it only made me think I was completely aro-ace. After that relationship ended in flames and I had moved on, I developed feelings for a very close friend who I had known since elementary school, and it kind of clicked from there, since I knew about these labels from previous research. I mean, I'm sorry about the bursting up in flames.
This person says, since I was little, I never really understood why people were so excited to get married. Whenever people would ask who I had a crush on, I would always say the birds, the trees, the sky, which I...
That's so cute.
That is so cute. Which, now that I think about it, I probably should have realized I was a Therian earlier. I would never understand why people were so obsessed with dating. I still don't. And then a couple years back, I read Rick by Alex Gino, and I related to a lot of the experiences in the book. I did some digging into it, and here we are.
Thank you for that response. That was really sweet. This respondent says, I found out 1 year later after finding out I was demisexual. I heard about the terms coincidentally, and after reflecting on my teenage experience when it came to crushes and dating, etc., everything just kind of clicked. Yeah, the retrospective analysis, I think that was a big clicking point for me. And, you know, also the demisexual, so like, I see you. So after separating from a 12-year monogamous relationship and realizing that even around non-monogamy, amatonormativity was predominant, and that I wouldn't get attached to anyone and detach so easily while they would get attached. So I started to wonder something was off. and spent 2 years spinning as I had been in love, and anyone around had heard about it, and everyone would invalidate it for different reasons, and then so would I.
The last question we wanted to address was, what do you wish that everyone knew about the aromantic spectrum? What do you wish everyone knew about the aromantic spectrum?
I mean, first off, that it exists, but if we're gonna like be more serious about the question, that's a tricky one. Like, it's hard to isolate like what, like that one thing. Maybe I'm overthinking this, but like kind of seriously that people just knew it existed. Like, it can be sort of tiring to feel like you have to explain it to people every time it comes up, or like always exist in opposition of like what people assume is the default. So it can be easy sometimes to just sort of like give up and let people think what they think, which is fine, because like not everybody needs to know everything about like me and the way I navigate the world. But it'd be nice if people just had like a broader baseline understanding that like there's a broad ocean of identities, that there are other options than the amatonormative standards. How about you, Elle?
This is another one where I wrote out a test question. I actually did for all of them. I don't know why I didn't read mine for the first one, but whatever. I wrote that I wish everyone knew that being aromantic is an important queer identity, and that aromantics are actively marginalized by many societal structures. Which, like, could to some people sound like I'm playing like the oppression Olympics or whatever, but that's obviously not what I mean by that. The way that I think about it more so is that a lot of people have a at least basic understanding of the fact that homophobia is an active like system of oppression against certain people for certain reasons. That's more of a general understanding, whereas that same understanding doesn't exist for the aromantic spectrum. So also what I mean by aromantic being an important queer identity, like especially aromanticism, asexuality too, but asexuality I think to a lesser extent in its existence and advocacy surrounding it. Oh, the birdies! Just that the aromantic identity is one that holds a lot of like political value, especially because of how strong amatonormativity and the variety of ways in which it is woven into society. Essentially, being aro is queer as fuck.
Oh, yeah.
Let's read your responses. I think the top response would be that it exists.
Yeah,
The aromantic spectrum is a thing.
I just wish more people were aware of the difference of sexual attraction and romantic attraction, as I feel like the two still get lumped together often. I think I get that a lot.
This person says, it is not only a spectrum, but many of us wish that you would respect what the label means for us and not create your own conclusions from it. Hopefully that's what we're doing within this video, although I'm aware that a large portion of our audience is in fact aromantic, that people who aren't aromantic and maybe have made assumptions about it will also see it. We have 3 comments in a row here that say that people wish that everyone knew that it's a spectrum, that there's a lot of different experiences within it.
And also, like, there's been some talking about, like, how it's not a flat spectrum either. It's not like you're less aromantic or more aromantic. It's like a cloud.
I did a whole video on that.
Yeah. There's no end. There's no beginning. It's like a space to be. So this respondent says that you probably know someone who is aromantic, and that they aren't the emotionalist robot that gets thought of by allo folks.
A lot of people commented on the assumption that aromantic identity makes someone cold or unfeeling.
Yeah.
And that they'd like for people to know that that is not in fact the case, which kind of goes alongside the like spectrum idea.
Yeah.
And also the separation of orientation and character.
Yeah, aromantic people can love so much, especially because they are not bound to romantic love.
I think some people accidentally misread the question as, do you wish everyone knew about the aromantic spectrum? So I got a lot of yes.
Or just, yeah.
Yeah.
I too wish that people knew that yes. So this person says that it exists, I guess. I feel like asexuality is more well known because it's more outrageous, like all sex is a natural thing and everyone wants it narrative, whereas being single by choice has become more acceptable through feminism and stuff. So people don't question it as much. Just my experience though.
And then last one, that it's hella cool.
Oh yeah.
Aromanticism to me is as much an identity as a political perspective. It's about breaking down barriers inside and outside the queer community and understanding that the labels we use for attraction, gender, and identity are fictional. That's how I feel too.
And fictional in this context doesn't mean like labels aren't real, but it's like, yeah, I think it's an important like thing to understand that like labels are like, they're a thing that we choose to apply to ourselves to represent ourselves. So they're like not inherently binding or constricting, like they can be whatever you want them to be. And I think sometimes people have a hard time with that idea, but I think a lot of us would feel a lot more free if we were okay with people just identifying with the way they identify and understanding that labels are important, but they aren't like inherently boxes.
That was our video talking about yours and our aromantic experiences. That's all we have for you today. So farewell lovely humans,
and we'll see you next time in the space on the internet. Twinkle twinkle, starlit shooting star.